Okay, before I use the computer, I'm going to don my PPE because while I'm just using a computer, I do not know who was using it before me and what substances they were getting into, and I wouldn't want to touch it. So, once your PPE is on, you will look, if you can see my mouse here, it says ND1000 right there. That's the Nanodrop 1000. I'm going to open that, and it's going to ask me what my purpose is. Now, typically you will just be doing UV or visible light, UV vis, and that's a very common one to do. As you get into some more advanced stuff, you might be doing the nucleic acids or proteins, etc. And there's also cell cultures on here. Cell cultures will also work just fine, as well as UV vis. I'm just going to do UV vis for general. Now, the first thing it's going to do is ask me that all my pedestals are clean, and to make sure and load a water sample. So to do that, I will take you over here to the instrument, and it's going to ask that the pedestals are clean. I'm going to lift the arm, and the area that it reads is right here. So I'm going to wipe that with a Kim wipe, and it's going to connect to this part up here. I'm going to wipe that with a Kim wipe as well. All right. I did forget to mention to tell you to just bring some pure water with you. So I have my tips, my pipette. I'm going to load 2 microliters. So we're going to start with 2 microliters of water onto right onto this tip here. You probably can't even see it in the camera, but I got a nice 2 little water drop. Eject my tip. Now I'm going to lower the arm like that. Now, I'm not going to leave this. I want you to see what happens, but I'm going to go ahead. It says after loading the water sample, click OK to initialize. So I'm just going to click OK off screen. And you can see it actually makes the arm move up and down. What it does is connect a little thin little drop of water between those 2 parts of the pedestal. Over on the screen it said initializing, and now it is done. I can lift it up when it's done, take a Kim wipe, and wipe up those areas. Alright, now let's go back to the screen. So, okay, I just need to set up some parameters. So, the first thing I'm going to do is run my blank. Remember, I told you that the blank is the sample that contains none of your experimental material. It is whatever liquid everything else is currently in. But I also need to set up my nanometers, that is to say, what wavelength am I reading at. I don't really need an absorbance 2, even though it's on here, but I am going to say absorbance 1, and in this particular instance, I want 610 nanometers. Alright? So, the screen is telling me I need to make a new blank measurement, and remember I told you I prepared a blank sample that contains my liquid. I labeled it B for blank. One more time, I'm going to show you how to load the Nanodrop, but after that we'll just focus with what's on the screen, okay? So back on the Nanodrop, I'm going to grab my pipette tip and pull out 2 microliters of my blanking liquid and place it right on the sensor. Like so. Gently lowering the arm. Okay. Back to what I'm doing over here. I'm going to hit this blank button. Boop. It's taking the blank measurement. Of course, it's going to make noise, and that little window will go away when it's done. Okay, it has now been blanked. Now I can proceed to load my samples once I wipe off the sensors. All right, I'm going to load sample number 1, which I will put here as sample ID 1, and it's also sample number 1, but this you can't change. That will just record what samples you're doing, but give it a name, because that way when you get your data later, it'll be easier to know which ones you did. So I am loading tube 1, 2 microliters, just as before, off camera. Lower the arm, eject my tip, and now I'm going to click measure. All right. So the absorbance at 610 is 0.009. I'm going to wipe it off with my Kim wipe. And now I'm going to load my sample 2, which I will label as 2. Two microliters, of course, as always. And now I hit measure. All right, this one's telling me it also had an absorbance of 0.0009. I'm suspect about that actually. Let me try loading sample 3. .006. If these were bacterial cultures, they would need to grow a lot longer. But actually what I just did was mixed HI into a little bit of deionized water. And let's load sample 4. Call it number 4 and we'll hit measure. And it's 0.007. Now, you can just write those down manually each time, or when you're done, you can go to show report, and it will tell you, here you are, what your absorbances are for each one of those. All right, don't forget to wipe off the unit. Close the arm, and just so somebody doesn't think that you're in the middle of something, you can exit out. Of course, you may naturally save this information if you want to save it in an Excel file and email it to yourself or anything like that. That's all possible as well, especially if you have a lot of samples to do. So that is how you use the Nanodrop spectrophotometer. You don't need a cuvette, you only need a small amount of your sample. Just bring some water with you, and don't forget to bring some of your material to blank. If you're doing cell cultures, that would probably be HI or LB or whatever you grew it in. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know.